This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work with another response to an Ask Prof. Wolff question coming to us from our Patreon community. This one comes from the Ark Whisperer. That's what he or she left on the message as to who they were. I'm glad to respond. The question is an important one. On one level, it's historical. It asks me to comment on the significance of the decision taken early in the presidency of Ronald Reagan to respond to a labor dispute with the air traffic controllers at America's airports by firing many thousands of them all at once, replacing them with government, military personnel, and so on, and basically dealing a crushing blow by having the government step in to basically destroy a strike and severely damage a labor union. And I'm going to comment on it, but I want to stress that this question is not about history. It's about our situation right now, which we access through a conversation of history, which is often the best way to approach any topic. So here is the reality. During the Great Depression of the 1930s, everything changed in the United States having to do with the relationship between labor and business, labor and capital, labor and employers. The capitalist system had crashed in 1929. It was obviously, and for virtually everyone, a failed system. 25% of the people were without work in 1933. The Depression lasted very long, destroyed many marriages, many families, countless communities. If you want to get a sense of the desperation, read something like John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath. Out of that came a resurgence of labor militancy. There's no other way to put it. Millions of people joined a new labor organization, the Congress of Industrial Organizations, CIO. These are people who had never been in a union before, whose parents had never been in a union before, who joined the unions out of a fundamental sense that they could do better getting through the awful depression in a union than not in one. And they also learned the power of their numbers when working men and women get together, particularly in large numbers, particularly organized and led by strong militant activists. There's an amazing list of things they achieved. They, and they alone, forced through the Social Security system, the system that now gives a decent retirement to millions of Americans who've given a lifetime of work. That was achieved in the 1930s by the New Deal coalition, they called themselves. And it wasn't just people joining labor unions and the CIO. Many of the activists in the CIO were members and also militants in two socialist and one communist party that gained enormous memberships and huge influence at the time. When the war was over, 1945, and the president who had helped build those institutions, pressed as he was from below, had died. Roosevelt had died. The war was over. The rich people and the corporations who had been required to pay higher taxes to pay for Social Security and unemployment compensation and the public jobs program of those years. All the progressive activities that are now being echoed by calling something a Green New Deal, adding ecological projects to the rebuilding of infrastructure, the New Deal's signature achievement in giving jobs to millions of otherwise unemployed people. And when the war was over and the president was dead, the business community revolted. They didn't want to pay taxes to help the mass of people. How un-American, they said. And they rolled back the New Deal, and they undid the New Deal. The Republicans took the lead because the New Deal had been passed under Democrats. But the Democrats, instead of fighting it, collapsed. The anti-communism of the time recruited the Democrats to play along with the Republicans, to prove their loyalty, their non-radicalism, their anti-socialism, by going along with the Republican plan of undoing the New Deal. And part of that was to eviscerate, undermine, destroy the labor movement, the CIO that had been the single largest and most visible of the institutions that changed America in the 1930s. So when Reagan becomes president, the symbolic decision that his first big act was to do what had already been done: weaken, destroy, divide the labor movement, destroy much more the socialist and communist movements. All of that had been done before Reagan ever got to office, although he rode that wave into office. So Reagan did the thing that he had promised his corporate backers he would do. So he fired all those striking workers as a sign: I am going to finish the job of undoing the New Deal. I'm going to crush labor, poor people, working class people back into the disastrous situation they had been fighting before the Depression hit and before they had their opportunity. Yes, it was important, not because it changed much, but it was the capstone, it was the culmination. And when the labor movement could not mount an effective response to undo what Reagan had done, and when the Democratic Party, now used to this role, kind of rolled over and played dead, we had a new America, the one we've been living in, that then again culminated in the second Reagan, Donald Trump. And the same issues arise. Why has it been so easy to undo the New Deal? Why wasn't it more deeply grounded? Why did the Democratic Party not stay with it, really preserve the New Deal, build on it, rather than cooperate in dismantling it? And where is the left to be the activists, often leading the charge of a mass movement in both labor and in the community? The answer is a profoundly ideological one. The left, like the right, needs to be nurtured, supported, funded, excited, mobilized, and then it will act at key moments. But if you don't nurture it and sustain it, and teach the classes and produce the media and involve the young people in an ongoing struggle outside of voting and far more active than going into a booth and flicking a switch, if you don't do that, your power dissolves on you, and then a Reagan comes along and can do what he did. That's the lesson. Look, in today's world, imagine if the Democrats, instead of bemoaning and criticizing Mr. Trump's horrific failure around COVID-19, had gone to the mass of the American people and said, let's march, let's stop working, let's demand that we have a proper policy like most other countries in the world. But the Democratic Party doesn't work like that. It rolls over and plays dead most of the time. It limits itself to the election. It doesn't want to disturb, mobilize, activate anybody. They're afraid of that They've become the party captured by their donors. And those are the same as fund the Republican Party. So let's keep it all quiet. Let's keep it all polite. Let's never rise above verbal fisticuffs. And let's make the system work for those at the top. Ronald Reagan did it when he got into power. Trump did it when he got into power. And the Democrats don't provide anything like the kind of mass-based mobilization that might have changed that history in the past and our present as well. This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work.